Thanks for joining me, guys. But let's start with the big news in college football that just dropped a couple hours ago. I want to take it back to SEC Media Days. So at SEC Media Days, while reporters wanted to question Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, about what playoff format he preferred, the 4-4-2-2-1-1 or the 5-11, they preferred the 5-11 after previously stating that they wanted the 4-4-2-2-1-1. Reporters wanted to ask about the ninth game, obviously a big hot button issue. Would the SEC go to a ninth game? All the SEC wanted to talk about was their strength of schedule. And they were obviously really irritated about Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. All three of them 9-3. All of them missed the playoffs. And they felt that Indiana, a Big Ten team who went 11-1, did not deserve their spot, pointed to the fact that they got blown out in the first round by Notre Dame. Never mind that Notre Dame went to the national championship and was a very good team. It just infuriated them that their 9-3 teams did not make it. That team did, along with SMU as well. So they spent all week with the media discussing this. And I mean all week. How difficult their schedule was, what a grind it was, all their usual talking points, the gauntlet of the SEC schedule. All their coaches were on the same point. They put out a propaganda packet. They gave this propaganda packet to all the media in attendance that showed a bunch of different strength of schedule and strength of record metrics. And it was basically, I don't know to sell the press on it, but I don't even know why they were trying to do that because, as we know, the press generally jockeys for them anyway, let's be honest. But they went on and on to the point of, it was just a joke. And what they wanted was for the selection committee to adopt a different strength of scheduling format. They wanted to, when they're judging teams, have a much heavier influence of strength of record, strength of scheduling. Well, the committee announced yesterday that they will be adopting this, exactly what they wanted, exactly what Greg Sankey and the SEC wanted as to how they're going to choose teams. And what it all means is if you beat a good team, you get a nice boost. If you lose to a bad team, you get slammed. But if you lose to a better team, you don't get slammed so hard. Conversely, if you beat a bad team, you don't get such a bump. It all sounds good, right? It all sounds like if you and I were looking at two resumes side by side and we're judging them together, we would be thinking the same thing. This is how we're looking at it too. Well, they played this 5 good teams. They got 4 good wins. This win's okay, but they lost to this bad team. Essentially, this is just a way of a computer telling us how good and how bad those teams are, calculating all the numbers and spitting us out. Here's the problem. They didn't show us any real examples of what this might look like. They didn't tell us essentially like, let's take this metric and see how it graded those strength of schedules last year. How does it rank them this year? So that we could take that and say, all right, how's that line up with the other ones that are out there? There was no transparency at all. We didn't see how it looked in action. And coming off of the heels of the SEC lobbying for this and then getting this, it's a little bit suspect. And the problem a lot of people have with this is if you go look at strength of schedule record or strength of schedule rankings, you will see that they skew heavily for the SEC. For instance, Phil Steele, 15 of his top 15, 10 of them are SEC schedules. ESPN, 13 of their top 15 are SEC schedules. Wisconsin in there, but Wisconsin with a historically hard schedule in the Big Ten. But Greg Sankey wanted this because he thought it would favor the SEC, and of course it will, as if they're not already favored enough. They've already got the benefit of the doubt when it comes to head-to-head. They get an extra win. They always have gotten an extra win, always. When it comes to the selection committee, if the SEC was 11-1 and a Big Ten team was undefeated, they're viewed as the same. And they definitely got what they wanted yesterday. And then today, just today, Greg Sankey leaks to the press that the SEC will be getting the second thing that Greg Sankey wants. What's the second thing he wants? He wants to go to 9 SEC games. He has wanted to go to 9 SEC games. He just didn't want to go to 9 SEC games without getting something for it. So the SEC has announced they will be going to 9 SEC games. And Greg Sankey gets to go to 9 SEC games, gets to get his new scheduling metric added to the selection committee. Why does he want to go to 9 SEC games? A lot of his ADs want to go to 9 SEC games, and ESPN said that they will give each school an additional $5 million to go to 9 conference games. So now that they've got nothing to lose because they got the new strength of scheduling ratings worked in and baked in for them, they won't get punished as much for their losses, and they'll gain more from their wins, and it's worth it to add that ninth game. So the SEC says they want this. Committee adopts it. Very next day, they go to 9 games. And if anybody thinks this is not going to benefit the SEC, the next time there is a similar argument like Indiana versus Alabama, Ole Miss, etc., they're kidding themselves. However, this argument isn't going to be that big of a deal to most of us because this argument is going to be about teams number 15, 16, 17, and 18 because they're going to also go to 16 teams because that's the next step. And also Greg Sankey getting his big win. Now that the SEC is going to 9 conference games, they will get their second concession. The second concession is Tony Petitti in the Big Ten, who wanted the 4-4-2-2-1-3. They will now compromise with the SEC and give them the playoff format that they want, the 5-11, which is what the SEC has wanted since Big Ten Media Days, which means the SEC got to go to the 9 games that Sankey wanted. They got the committee to adopt the new metrics that they wanted, and they got the Big Ten to give them the playoff format that they wanted. Greg Sankey just performed an absolute masterclass. The dude is running circles around Tony Petitti in the Big Ten, getting everything he wants, setting his league up for success, setting the terms of all the deals. Meanwhile, Tony Petitti continues to look like a clown, intentionally leaking a 24 to 2018 playoff bracket this week. The guy looks like a total jokester, man. He looks like a jokester. In addition to this, the SEC now they've got a rule in the conference. You got to schedule one out-of-conference game against a P5 opponent. And big tough guy Curt Cignetti at Big Ten Media Days, you remember him saying he's just following the SEC format. Well, he got rid of big bad Virginia off of his schedule, dropped it for another non-P5 opponent, making 3 cream puffs for 24, 25, 26 for Indiana. That gives him 9 Power 5 opponents. Well, now the SEC is going to have 10 Power 5 opponents. Indiana will only have 9, which means the Big Ten has got to come up with this rule too. We can't be allowing Big Ten teams to have just 9 P5 opponents when the SEC's got 10, because Ohio State and most of the teams in the Big Ten are out there scheduling at least one good Big Ten out-of-conference game outside their Big Ten schedule, giving them 10. And it's crazy to me that a bunch of Big Ten fans were cheering on Curt Cignetti for this. We got to play against Indiana. We're competing for the league title against Indiana. We shouldn't be cheering for them dumbing down their schedule. So this whole thing is just utterly hilarious, man. Listen, I disagree. I don't think he's better than Kevin Warren. I think the start he's gotten off to has been worse than Kevin Warren's. At this point in their careers, I miss Jim Delaney, and that is a hilarious thing to say because Jim Delaney was hated. He was absolutely hated. But let me know, guys, what do you think in the chat? What do you think about the new metrics? How do you think it'll affect the selection committee? Are you happy about the SEC going to 9 games? I'm sure most people are. In the 5-11 versus the 4-4-2-2-1-1, I'm guessing that most of you wanted the 4-4 or the 5-11 over the 4-4-2-2-1-1. I wanted the 4-4-2-2-1-3. And the reason I wanted the 4-4-2-2-1-3 is the 4-4-2-2-1-1 absolutely does kill out-of-conference games in the sense that they're not going to be competitive. And I'll explain why in a minute. But I want to get into some Ohio State and Texas talk. Obviously, we got the Womack decision coming up in 10 minutes. Have you ever wondered, I have often, why a redhead is called a redhead when their hair is orange? Well, I had to look it up today. I don't know why I looked it up today. I was actually watching, a film on genotypes of Irish people. And it just got me wondering because they have this big redhead day. And I looked it up. So it turns out that redheads and calling people with orange hair redheads predates the word orange. So way back then when they started calling them redheads, the color orange was called yellow red. So yellow redhead doesn't sound as good. They just called them redheads, despite the fact that they clearly have orange hair. And there you go. That's your nugget of the day.